Hello, and today's learning target is I can write an equation through 2 points. So today we are going to be writing equations again. This time we will be given 2 points in place of 1 point and the slope. To write an equation in slope-intercept form, we need 2 things, and this is what was in our notes from the last lesson, but just to recap, we need the slope, and for this lesson we will find using the slope formula, which I have listed here below. And that again is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Then we also need the y-intercept, and we will find this using the same method as the previous day. We will solve for it. And remember, we can find slope by taking this formula, which we just spoke about. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's write the equation for the line that passes through both points. So as we look at this first one, we have 3, 4, and 4, 6. So let's go ahead and label. I'm going to label x1, y1 for the first ordered pair given, and x2, y2 for the second ordered pair given. Now you may recall doing this when we went through the lesson of finding slope between 2 points, and that's exactly what we're going to do here as well. So again, remember, m slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if I plug in the values that I have for y2, y1, x2, and x1, I've already have them labeled above. I'm just going to plug those numbers into the formula. So this will really equal 6 minus 4, right, y2 minus y1, over 4 minus 3, x2 minus x1. 6 minus 4 is 2, 4 minus 3 is 1, so that simplifies to be 2. So I have my slope. That's 2. Now, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we're going to do now what we just did the other day. We're going to use our point and our slope and plug into slope-intercept form and solve for b. So we're going to plug in our y, our m, and our x, and again, solve for b. However, now we're given 2 points that we can choose from to plug in, but just one slope. So how do we determine which point to use? Well, it doesn't matter which point to use. You could use either and you'll get the same answer. I always like to choose the point with smaller numbers, ones that don't have as many negative numbers, just numbers that might be easier to plug in to the equation to do the math, but ultimately you just have to be consistent when you plug them in and you'll get the same answer using either point. So let's go ahead and let's pick the point. Let's pick 3, 4. Those are smaller numbers, so I always like to choose the smaller numbers ordered pair. So I have my point and I have my slope, and so I'll plug in y, which is 4, equals m, which is 2, x, which is 3, plus b. So 4 equals 6 plus b, and I'll subtract 6. 4 minus 6 is negative 2, equals b. So I have my slope, I have my y-intercept. Let's put it all together, and I get y equals 2x minus 2. And that's my equation that goes through those 2 points that we were given at the beginning. Let's take a look at the next example. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label both of my points. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm going to find the slope. So m equals y2, which is negative 10, minus y1. So 10 minus negative 1. Chop, chop turns to a plus, and x2 minus x1. 2 minus negative 1, chop, chop, turns to a plus. So I really have negative 10 plus 1, which is negative 9, over 2 plus 1, which is 3, and negative 9 over 3 simplifies to negative 3. So that's our slope, that's m. Now into the formula, y equals mx plus b, I'm going to plug in a point for x and y and use my slope for m. So I'll go ahead and use the point negative 1, negative 1. And so into the formula, I have negative 1 equals negative 3 times negative 1 plus b. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. And I'll isolate my variable by subtracting 3. And negative 1 minus negative 3 is negative 4. So negative 4 equals b. So now if I put it all together, y equals, my slope right here is negative 3, and then my y-intercept is negative 4. So y equals negative 3x minus 4. All right, let's take a look at a few more examples. So again, first thing I'm going to do when I have my 2 points is label x1, y1, x2, y2, and now I'm going to find the slope. So m equals 8 minus negative 1, chop chop turns to a plus, and 6 minus 3, 8 plus 1 is 9, 6 minus 3 is 3, 9 over 3 simplifies to 3, so that's my slope. Now into y equals mx plus b, I'm going to choose a point and then my slope m, and I'm going to choose the point 3, negative 1. So in for y, I'll plug in negative 1 equals m, which is 3, x, which is 3, and now I'll solve for my y-intercept. So negative 1 equals 9 plus b, subtract 9. Negative 1 minus 9, negative 10 equals b. So if I put this all together, I get y equals 3x minus 10. Okay, let's go on to the next example. I'm going to first again label my points. So x1, move that down a little bit so I can write above it, x1, y1, x2, y2. And so my slope here is negative 1 minus negative 7, chop chop turns to a plus. 6 minus negative 3, chop chop turns to a plus. And negative 1 plus 7 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9, and 6 over 9 simplifies to 2/3, so that's my slope. And I'm going to choose the easier point, and I'm going to choose, let's try the second point here, 6, negative 1. And so into y equals mx plus b, I'll plug in negative 1 for y, 2/3 for my slope, and then 6 plus b. And negative 1 equals 2/3 times 6, so 2 over 3 times 6 over 1 is 12 over 3, which is 4. So negative 1 equals 4 plus b, subtract 4, so b equals negative 5. So if I put it all together, I get y equals my slope, which is 2/3, x minus 5. Okay, let's continue on. All right, so again, first thing when I get my 2 ordered pairs, I'm going to label x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to say m equals negative 20 minus 5 over negative 9 minus 6, and I get negative 25 over negative 15, which is 5/3. Now into y equals mx plus b, I'm going to choose this first point because it's smaller or easier numbers looks like to work with. So I'll plug in 5 for y equals m, which is 5/3, times x. And 5/3 of 6, well again, 5 over 3 times 6 over 1 is 30 over 3, which is 10. So 5 equals 10 plus b. Isolate b by subtracting 10, and 5 minus 10 is negative 5. So if I put this all together, I get y equals 5/3 x, and 5/3 again was my slope, and then minus 5. And that's my equation. All right, last example here. So again, first thing when I see my 2 points is I'm going to label x1, y1, x2, and y2. And so m equals negative 4 minus 4 all over negative 1 minus 3. And that gives me negative 8 over negative 4, which simplifies to 2. So my slope is 2. Now I'm going to choose the point. Let's choose the first point, 3, 4, and into y equals mx plus b. 4 equals m times x plus b. 4 equals 6 plus b minus 6. So b equals negative 2. So if I put it all together, I get y equals 2x minus 2. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Good job going through all those examples and writing down your notes. Bye-bye.